Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu, and we continue to follow breaking news out of the Middle East. This is a live look at the Al-Aqsa Hospital in southern Gaza right here, as Iran has now said consequences for Israel's strike will be, quote, beyond the imagination. This comes as the UN Security Council will meet today for an emergency meeting at Iran's request on Israel's airstrikes against the country. Switzerland, which holds the council's rotating presidency, announced the meeting on Sunday and said that the Iranian request was supported by Russia, China, and Algeria, the Arab representative on the council. This also comes as the head of Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard made his first public comments today after Israel's weekend attack on the country. The general calling Israel's strike, quote, illegitimate and illegal, saying the, quote, bitter consequences will be beyond the imagination of the occupiers, referring to Israel. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson also commented, saying Tehran will, quote, use all available tools to respond to Israel's weekend attack on military targets in Iran. The attacks between Israel and Iran have also raised fears of a full-scale regional war pitting Israel and the United States against Iran and its militant proxies, which include Hamas and Hezbollah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Sunday that the strikes severely harmed Iran and achieved all of Israel's goals. Now, satellite images show damage to two secretive Iranian military bases, one linked to work on nuclear weapons that Western intelligence agencies and nuclear inspectors say was discontinued in 2003. Another image linked to Iran's ballistic missile program. Meanwhile, Egypt's president announced Sunday his country has proposed a two-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, during which 4 hostages held in Gaza would be freed. There was no immediate response from Israel or Hamas as the latest talks are expected in Qatar. But this comes as Israel's military also said it detained 100 suspected Hamas militants in a raid on a hospital in northern Gaza over the weekend. Israeli forces raided the hospital on Friday, detaining 44 male staff. That's according to the World Health Organization. Palestinian medical officials said the hospital, which was treating about 200 patients, was heavily damaged in the raid. To speak more on this, I do want to bring in Blaise Mishtal, the Vice President for Policy with the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Blaise, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Stephanie.
Absolutely. I did want to ask you, we have been hearing for the very first time publicly from Iran's leadership saying that there will be consequences, quote, beyond the imagination. We were also hearing that they will use all of the tools available to them. We've seen Iran retaliate before with little success. So when we hear this verbiage, what does that mean?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to remember that just yesterday, the Iranians were talking about how the Israeli strike did little to no damage, that it was, in fact, a nothing burger, that there was nothing to look at here. And so this remarkable change in just 24 hours from saying, the Israelis weren't able to do anything to now saying we have to retaliate forcefully, I think shows both how much this regime lies, but also maybe how little they actually understand what's happening in their own country. I think it's entirely possible that the Iranian leadership yesterday was not getting the full picture, was not being briefed by their military about what was going on. And I think that's indicative of some of the problems the regime is having. The other problem the regime is having is that it's running out of options. In a different time and place, if Iran wanted to attack Israel, they'd look first to Hamas. Then maybe they'd look to their militias in Syria and Iraq, or the Houthis, or Hezbollah. And all of those have, particularly Hamas and Hezbollah, have really been neutralized, just especially over the last month by Israel. Then, if they wanted to do something bigger, maybe they'd plan to launch drones or ballistic missiles at Israel. But we saw first in April, and now most recently on October 1st, that Iran's drones and ballistic missiles aren't really effective against Israel. Between their inaccuracy and Israel's air defenses, they can't really touch Israel very much. Moreover, one of the things that Israel did on Saturday was eliminate a lot of the factories where Iran produces those ballistic missiles. So if it wanted to use them to attack Israel now, it would quickly run out of its weapons stockpile. So I think that really puts Iran in a bit of a bind where it doesn't have a lot of very good options. And so I think maybe it'll try another missile barrage at Israel. But I think it's more likely that it might try to attack Israel in a different way, not attack Israel directly, but try to attack an Israeli embassy overseas somewhere, or a Jewish community center, as Hezbollah has done in Argentina, in Europe, in other places, try to hit Israeli diplomats or businessmen. Use the terrorist tactics that are really what Iran has honed over the last 40 years. And I think it'll try to go back to those because it hasn't been winning at this direct confrontation with Israel.
With those potential strategies that you mentioned, I would have to imagine that that might cause greater escalation. We've been hearing that nobody wants a larger regional war and for outside parties to then get involved. But as you mentioned, if the tactics specifically with Israel don't work and targeting maybe some of those, foreign areas like the embassies, I would have to imagine that would create international alarm, and perhaps the United States or other allies would then feel the pressure to step in.
Yeah, well, look, President Biden said in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, of that horrible attack by Hamas against Israel, he had a clear message for Iran, which was don't. But now twice Iran has. So yes, the United States might want to avoid escalation, and maybe we've contained it to some degree, but clearly those threats and those warnings from the U.S. haven't stopped Iran from getting directly involved. And moreover, people are afraid of a regional war, but this already is a regional war. It became a regional war on October 8th. The day after the Hamas attack, Hezbollah began firing at Israel from Lebanon. Shortly thereafter, other Iranian proxies have gotten involved. Israel is under fire from 7 different countries in the Middle East. This is a regional war. And I think one of the things that Israel did on Saturday, what they talk about is they not only targeted military bases and missile production facilities, but they also targeted Iran's air defenses. One of the most amazing things is they took out all of Iran's most sophisticated Russian-supplied air defenses, the S-300 systems that Iran had around its most sensitive sites. And what that says to me was this strike was just as much about laying the groundwork, opening the window, creating the opportunity for further strikes if they're necessary, where Israel can come into Iran, do what it needs to do, and not worry about those air defenses that have now been destroyed.
You were talking about how this no longer really is just a regional war. The footprint, as we have seen as the months have progressed, have continued to grow. Do you think it is inevitable for other countries to eventually become involved as we continue to see this escalate? You mentioned that the United States has warned repeatedly Iran not to retaliate, Iran ignoring those warnings and now vowing that the next retaliation will be beyond imagination. Where do you see this going internationally?
Well, look, let's be clear. Other countries are involved. Iran killed 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan in the last year. The U.S., the U.K., the British, the French, other countries are involved in defending commercial shipping in the Red Sea that is being terrorized by Iran's Houthi partners. Ships from Greece all around the world have been shot at. Some of them have been sunk by the Houthis. This is an international war. Moreover, I think what Saturday also showed is when Israel hit missile production facilities in Iran, it was doing not only itself a favor because it's been targeted by Iranian missiles, but it was doing Ukraine a favor because we know that Iran is sending ballistic missiles to Russia to use against the Ukrainians. And the same is true going the other way. Ukraine is doing Israel a favor because by keeping Russia tied down in a war, that means Russia can't resupply Iran with more air defenses. So this is already a global war that has brought in the European countries in Europe, the US, Middle Eastern countries. Now North Korea is involved in arming Russia, and I'm sure they're arming Iran as well. So this is a global conflict, and I think the question is, how willing is the United States to support its partners like Israel in fighting this conflict on our behalf? Or are we going to continue to tie one hand behind their backs and keep insisting that there's weapons they can't have, as we saw the UK just discussing in their parliament, saying that there's things they can't do, like the United States telling Israel that it can't strike Iran's nuclear facilities in this latest strike. The longer we do that, the more we tie Israel hands, the longer this conflict goes on, and the greater a danger it is that it spills even further beyond the Middle East and the parts of the world that are already affected.
You bring up a really important point, and earlier in our program, we were speaking with the former U.S. ambassador of Ukraine, William Taylor, about the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia, and of course, the North Korean troops that are now in Russia. And you were speaking about that war and connecting it in some way with the conflict in the Middle East, saying that they are connected. As we know, Russia is allied with Iran. And so you bring up a really interesting point that these are conflicts that are not in isolation. They are all connected with one another, and they impact one another. Blaise, before we let you go, is there anything else specifically that you're keeping a very close eye on, or any development that we haven't yet discussed that you would like to bring attention to?
Yeah, I think the really important thing to watch here is that one thing that Iran likes to do when it's been attacked by Israel is actually take it out against U.S. troops that are stationed in Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. We've seen that happen in the past, and that's something that I think we really need to be on the watch for this time around, and also make clear to Iran that it's not okay to target U.S. troops, and be ready to respond forcefully against Iran if they try to do that again.
Blaise, as always, we do appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks, Stephanie.